Hello, this is Melanie Gorelnik, and for the next hour, I'll be reading from the February 24th issue of the Toronto Sun on the Niagara Frontier radio reading service. The first story is Kid Rock says God will cut down fake liberal media for accurately reporting tour prices by Mark Danielle. Kid Rock has issued a stark warning to journalists reporting on the ticket prices for his upcoming tour. A reckoning is coming for them. The Bawataba hitmaker has taken issue with music scribes, aka, quote, the fake liberal media, who noted that some fans who want to see Rock up close on his Freedom 250 tour will have to pay an upwards of US $5,000 a seat. Rock is selling, quote, extremely limited first-class seats for the trek. It's a move that stands in contrast to Rock's stance as an artist that aims to give music lovers the chance to hear live music for, quote, a fair ticket price. After looking at various dates on the 10-date outing on Ticketmaster, as of this writing, many of the high-end price tickets are still available, including the opening night show in Dallas on May 1. Other lower-level seats will set his fans back $500. It's only once you get to the back of the venues where prices become affordable. A lawn ticket costs $50. The singer-rapper says that people making noise about the pricey experience aren't telling the full story. Quote, the fake liberal media says I'm charging $5,000 for front row tickets. Rock ranted in an X post that has been viewed more than 4.3 million times. They know damn well that's not the full story. Despite offering no additional perks with the first-class tickets, other than their proximity to the stage, Rock went on to say he's aiming to give concertgoers an elevated night out. Quote, those are extremely limited first-class seats like I explained. 4 tickets per row. First 5 rows only. $5,000 per seat row 1, $4,000 row 2, $3,000 row 3, $2,000 row 4, and $1,000 row 5. Again, only 4 seats in row 1 through 5, and 20 first-class seats in venues that hold 15,000 to 25,000 people, Rock continued. He added that God Almighty will eventually exact revenge on what he deems misreporting. Instead of reporting facts or that lawn seats are only $50, or how we are cutting out the scalpers, they twist it for headlines and clicks and to attack me. Nothing new here, he wrote. I will pray for them, will all caps, but I know that sooner or later God will cut them down. How are music fans reacting? Prices to see live music acts have become a contentious issue. Last year, Rock worked with U.S. President Donald Trump to enact measures to try and combat ticket resellers. You can buy a ticket for $100. By the time you check out, it's $170. You don't know what you've been charged for, Rock said. But, more importantly, the bots, they come in, they get all the good tickets to your favorite shows that you want to go to, and then they're relisted immediately for sometimes 400 to 500% markup. Rock said he wanted to see a cap on resale prices on tickets, and acknowledged he's a little overpaid right now, but said he was trying to keep things fair. It's kind of ridiculous. I would rather be, a hero to working class people, and have them be able to come attend my shows and give them a fair ticket price, he said. On Reddit, music lovers hit out at Rock for taking issue with reporting on his pricing for the Freedom 250 tour. It's not fake news if you're actually selling 5,000 seats, ya moron, one person wrote, with another questioning whether anyone will actually pay $5,000 to see Rock live. No one is paying $5,000 to see Kid Rock in 2026, they said. Scalpers were maybe getting $5,000 for premium Taylor Swift tickets during her last tour. The issue is that he set the base price for front row seats at $5,000, and now he's whining because a couple of news outlets wrote factual articles about it. That's still an obnoxious price, regardless of what row it is. They should have some drinks with you at that price, one ex-user added. Man, I'm sure glad you cut the scalpers out of selling those. And then check notes. $5,000 seats, another person wrote snarkily. A lot of words to confirm you are charging $5,000 for front row tickets, a fifth fan swiped. Others hit out at Rock for allegedly lip-syncing during his recent Turning Point USA alternative halftime show, claims which he denied. He's lip-syncing on stage and has the unmitigated gall to use the word fake to defend his concert pricing, one critic vented. $5,000 to see you lip-sync and cosplay as a man of the people? You're a grifter, plain and simple, a second added. There's this amazing picture of Kid Rock. He's at the Oval Office for the signing of an executive order. He is wearing this red, white, and blue top that's got sequins, an American flag, white wings on his shoulders, stars on the sleeves, and music notes, all kinds of stuff going on there, and glitter, and my gosh. He's wearing black sunglasses, a white hat, and he's posing with his hand on his hip, and there's yellow gold curtains behind him. Photo courtesy of Andrew Harnick via Getty Images. That story was Kid Rock Says God Will Cut Down Fake Liberal Media for Accurately Reporting Tour Prices by Mark Danielle. The next story is Catherine Short, daughter of Martin Short, dies at 42 by Brian Towie. Catherine Short, one of 3 adopted children of Only Murders in the Building star Martin Short and his late wife, actress Nancy Dolman, has reportedly died at age 42. It is with profound grief that we confirm the passing of Catherine Hartley Short. A rep for Martin Short said in a statement, per The Hollywood Reporter. The Short family is devastated by this loss and asks for privacy at this time. Catherine was beloved by all and will be remembered for the light and joy she brought into the world. Life of service. Catherine Short was a social worker and therapist, specializing in treating anxiety, depression, and suicidality. She worked at UCLA's Resnick Neuropsychiatric Hospital for 4 years, and later at the Camden Center's outpatient program. She was an advocate for mental health and worked with charity Bring Change to Mind to reduce the stigma around mental illness. Short and Dolman. Short and Dolman met in 1972 on a production of Godspell, and the couple married in 1980. Dolman died in 2010 after a fight with ovarian cancer. After her death, Short told The Guardian, quote, "It's been a tough 2 years for my children. This is the thing of life that we live in denial about, that it will ever happen to us or our loved ones. And when it does, you gain a little and you suffer a little. There's no big surprise." There's an undated picture of Catherine Short, the daughter of Martin Short. She's standing with her dad, Martin. There is like a greenery screen behind them. She's got light blondish red hair that's curled, and she's smiling with her head tilted into her dad's head. She's wearing a strapless green satin gown. She's very pretty, and Martin Short has a really big smile. He's got nice brown hair, and he's wearing a suit. Photo courtesy of Tiffany Rose via Getty Images. That story was Catherine Short, daughter of Martin Short, dies at 42 by Brian Towie. The next story is Maple Leafs Craig Berube back to juggling starts for eager goalies Anthony Stolarz and Joseph Woll by Lance Hornby. It's rotation nation for Maple Leafs goaltending assignments. this week and for the final 25 games. And the first split for Joseph Woll and Anthony Stolarz has a bit of intrigue. Stolarz had the last pre-Olympic break win, 36 saves over Connor McDavid and the Edmonton Oilers, and might prefer to face his former team, the Florida Panthers, on Thursday if given the choice between that and Tampa Bay the night before. But Woll's 25-save, 4-1 showing in Sunrise from December was on coach Craig Berube mind as the team drove to the airport Tuesday. Quote, "I go back to that game and all kinds of things pop into your head," Berube said. "I'm still mulling it over, and we'll discuss with our goalie coach, Curtis Sanford, about who will start there. They've both had good success in both buildings. We'll need them both the rest of the way." The better performer in Florida could be rewarded with the home start Saturday against Ottawa, though Berube has tended to lean Woll's way in marquee games after Stolarz's extended injury absence. Both netminders have had to work their way back from injuries, with long practice sessions, so the past week of trying to stay sharp wasn't new. Quote, "The biggest difference when you come back off an injury is that it's usually a morning skate and maybe one practice," Stolarz said. "So having the opportunity of 5 or 6 practices in a row to help ease back in will be a major help. Unfortunately, that long-term injury list experience helps," Woll added. "But as you get older and play longer in this league, you understand what your body needs and the process of the balance of rest. With this crazy schedule, it's good to have days off and days to tune up." There is a picture of Toronto Maple Leafs goalie Anthony Stolarz. He's 41 years old. He is on the ice and he is, he's making a save. So he is in front of the goal and the net there. He's got his hockey stick and you could see the puck is in the air, so he's hitting it away from the net. And his legs are kind of buckled on the ice. Photo courtesy of the Canadian Press. That story was Maple Leafs' Craig Berube back to juggling starts for eager goalies Anthony Stolarz and Joseph Woll, by Lance Hornby. The next story is Warmington. 15-year-old boy charged by Peel cops in human trafficking of girls as young as 11, by Joe Warmington. 3 young girls being sex trafficked in the GTA in a, quote, "reprehensible pimping network" were as young as 11 years old. And one of the 4 males charged by Peel Regional Police in this disturbing case was just 15. He is considered the kingpin of this ugly pimping operation. It's a shocking crime, even for a city that has seen just about everything. But this still shook up Peel Police, who have managed to shut down this operation and save several victims from these alleged criminals. These crimes are reprehensible and a complete violation of any sense of decency, said Peel Police Deputy Chief Nick Milinovich. Peel Police worry there may be more girls who have been forced into this human trafficking network. Investigators believe there may be additional victims and are urging anyone with related information to contact investigators with the Vice and Human Trafficking Unit at 905-453-2121, extension 3555. Say Peel Police in a media release, adding, "Anonymous information may also be submitted by calling Peel Crime Stoppers at 1-800-222-TIPS or 8477, or visiting peelcrimestoppers.ca. That's spelled PELCRIMESTOPPERS.ca. Investigation started 1 year ago. This investigation is far from over. It all started a little more than a year ago when this alleged group of traffickers first came on the Vice and Human Trafficking Unit's radar. In January 2024, the unit investigated allegations that several young female victims, ages 11 to 14 years old, were being trafficked and exploited in the sex trade throughout the Greater Toronto Area, said Peel Police. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Toronto Sun on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. After an exhaustive probe into this, police have now made arrests. It is alleged that the suspects used coercion, manipulation, and threats of physical violence to maintain control and influence over the victims, while financially benefiting from their exploitation. 4 males have been charged. The 15-year-old can't be named as a result of provisions under the Youth Criminal Justice Act. He has been charged with 3 counts of procuring a person under 18, 2 counts of receiving the benefit resulting from trafficking in persons, 2 counts of material benefit from the sexual services provided by a person under 18, 3 counts of exercise control, direction, or influence, and trafficking in persons under 18. And he hasn't even hit his 16th birthday yet. None of his victims have even turned 15 yet. The adults charged in this are Mohammed Omar Al-Saleh, 21, from Toronto, Mustafa Abdu, 22, from Toronto, and Yusuf Al-Gabouri, 20, of Mississauga. They are charged with obtaining sexual services for consideration person under 18, sexual assault of a female under 16 years, and sexual interference. Authorities working with victims. None of this is going to court, but this is where it's going. In the meantime, Victim Services is working with the female victims. We are very thankful that it has been stopped and survivors rescued, said Milanovic. Our service is committed to fighting human trafficking and working with our partners to get survivors the care they need. The victims, and those using them for profit, being so young is disturbing. But the market of suspects who would pay to engage in illegal sexual activity with minors is large. We are busy. Peel Vice and Human Trafficking Unit Staff Sergeant Bob Hackenbrook told the Toronto Sun last year, after a province-wide project that saw 1,100 men charged with answering online ads to have sex with minors. Peel's Vice and Trafficking Unit is big into pre-crime measures to try to protect vulnerable victims. It's important work, Hackenbrook said. It's important to the officers involved to know they helped protect the victims of human trafficking. It's a very committed group who work hard to protect the vulnerable. The victims here were children. And in some cases, so are those who are running these human trafficking operations. The customers are adults. There are booking pictures of each of the 3 men, and, well, they're young actually. They all seem to have the same hairdo, brown hair and a mustache that's short and a beard, brown eyes, and they're just looking very blankly into the camera. Photo courtesy of Peel Regional Police. That story was Warmington. 15-year-old boy charged by Peel cops in human trafficking of girls as young as 11, by Joe Warmington. The next story is Lily. Premier Doug Ford's CNN tirade not least bit helpful, by Brian Lilly. The only person who could realistically benefit from Doug Ford's appearance on CNN on Monday is Doug Ford himself. Ontario's Premier decided to insert himself once again in the middle of international trade negotiations, an area he has no jurisdiction over, by appearing on American television. It would be one thing if the message Ford was delivering was one that could move negotiations forward. That's what he was doing a year ago, when a lack of federal leadership after Justin Trudeau's resignation thrust Ford into the role of Captain Canada. A year ago, Ford's message was clear. Tariffs hurt citizens of both countries, and we are better off working together to build Fortress AmCan, as he called it. Personal message. On Monday, his message was bitter and personal, telling CNN's Wolf Blitzer that he wants Trump to lift tariffs, and then saying he hopes Trump and the Republicans lose the midterms. Let's come up with a resolution, Ford said about the tariff situation before switching to pure politics. And there's going to be the midterms. I've never seen so many Canadians all cheering on the Democrats. Ford went on to discuss how the Republicans could lose several races in the Senate and the House of Representatives, something he just said he and other Canadians were hoping for. Walls are closing in on Trump, says Premier. We saw what happened in Congress. We saw what happened in the Supreme Court. The walls are closing in, I believe, on President Trump right now, and he's feeling the pressure, Ford said. In Washington, Ford's comments were met with frustration and eye-rolling, rather than anger. His competing messages of "do me a favor and lift the tariffs" and "I hope you lose" don't make sense to anyone in the American capital, and they don't make sense back home either. Name one person who benefits from that message other than Doug Ford. His message doesn't help a single auto worker. It doesn't help a single steel worker. It doesn't help tariffs get lifted. It will have a lot of Canadians who are angry at Trump cheering and giving Ford their support in the next poll, but it won't get tariffs lifted. Of course, feeling good about Ford's comments is like sitting in a rocking chair. It may feel good, but all that rocking back and forth won't get you very far. Inserting himself into talks. It would be one thing if Ford were a private citizen, but he's an elected leader and is once again inserting himself into the ongoing trade talks between Ottawa and Washington. A year ago, Ford led Canada's premiers in heading to Washington, where they held meetings with members of Congress, had a reception held by a Republican senator, and chatted with White House officials. Ford was seen as an important and influential at that time. He was outspoken against the tariffs, but made sure not to make it personal with Trump. "Nah, Ford is a beaut," read one text message from a Republican close to Trump when asked about Ford speaking out so candidly against tariffs a year ago. At that point, Ford was able to speak to Democrats and Republicans. Today, Republicans may take his calls, but the only ones that would be seen in public with him are Republicans who are fighting with Donald Trump. That might be fine if you were part of the resistance against Trump, trying to win an election stateside. That's not what Ford is doing. He wants tariffs lifted on Ontario industries, and he's going on American TV to denounce the one guy who can lift those tariffs, while saying he hopes Trump and his party lose the next round of elections. Poking the bear while simultaneously asking the bear for a favor is a losing strategy. Not helping our cause. Ford should realize that he only gets booked on CNN, ABC, and these other American outlets because they know he will bash Trump. He should also realize he isn't helping our cause. Ambassador Mark Wiseman, Prime Minister Carney's new top diplomat in Washington, just arrived last week. He has a lot of work ahead of him to try and get the tariffs hitting Ontario's industries lifted, and he doesn't need Ford getting in the way. Perhaps it's time for Carney to tell Ford to sit on the bench for a while. That story was Lily. Premier Doug Ford's CNN tirade not least bit helpful, by Brian Lilly. The next story is Bonnie Blue says she's pregnant after latest sex stunt. by Ling Hui. British adult content creator Bonnie Blue, who gained notoriety after claiming to have had sex with 1,057 men in a single day, has announced she's pregnant. Blue, whose real name is Tia Billinger, took to YouTube to share the news in a video posted on Sunday. In the video, the social media star said she was left sick and bedbound in Tenerife, Spain, following her latest stunt, which involved unprotected sex with about 400 men. Quote, "I've been sick, a headache, and when I say a headache, I mean like a mega migraine," Blue said in the video. "Foods have been making me feel sick, but then also some foods I'm wanting to eat instantly, else I'll be sick." She then films herself taking a pregnancy test, adding that she was a little bit nervous. Minutes later, she returns to the camera to show the results. "Guys, I am definitely pregnant, like fully pregnant. So I'm going to have to ChatGPT what to do next, because I'm actually not quite sure. I don't know." The video then cuts to her appointment for an ultrasound, where a technician confirmed her pregnancy. "Oh, is that the baby?" she asked. "That's actually crazy." Though perhaps not a surprise to any of her followers, news of Blue's pregnancy comes weeks after she made headlines with the launch of her, quote, breeding mission, in which she said she was having unprotected sex with about 400 men. Blue told Us Weekly that she took DNA samples of the men she had sex with. "It was important for me to remember more than just their penis size this time around. So I got their DNA samples and their contact details," she said. There is a picture of Tia Billinger, known as Bonnie Blue. It was taken in 2025. She's at the airport and she's got big blue eyes, blonde hair. She doesn't even wear makeup. She's very naturally pretty, and she has a great smile. Photo courtesy of Sunny Tumberlaka, AFP via Getty Images. That story was Bonnie Blue Says She's Pregnant After Latest Sex Stunt by Ling Hui. The next story is Warmington. Peel Region's frontline cops seizing more than gun per week in 2026 by Joe Warmington. 9 guns in 8 weeks. That's how many deadly weapons frontline Peel Regional police officers have seized in the field in 2026. Oh, and also dozens of bullets. There is no such thing as a routine traffic stop anymore, unless you want to say routine is when police find drivers and passengers packing weapons. It happens a lot. Every time it does, lives are in danger. "It's dangerous work by our officers," said Deputy Chief Mark Andrews. "They are keeping the community safe." Latest seizure happening during traffic stop. Each time there is a gun found in a vehicle, it's not a conspiracy to say a potential crime was prevented. Gun crime is a huge problem for the entire GTA. But if police find guns before they are used in a crime, it's better for the public than waiting until a gun is used or fired in the commission of a crime. The latest gun seizure from a car in Peel Region occurred on February 18, when officers from 22 Division's Community Intervention and Response Team, CIRT, seized an illegal firearm during a traffic stop in Brampton, the 9th firearm seized by frontline officers this year. Peel cops said it happened at 7:45 a.m. after officers initiated a traffic stop on a vehicle near Main Street and Brickyard Way. Officers detained the occupants under the authority of the Cannabis Act and conducted a search, they said. At that point, police alleged that one of the accused fled on foot, and after a brief foot pursuit ensued, the accused was arrested. Police added that during a search of the accused, a quote, loaded illegal handgun and a magazine containing ammunition were allegedly found. "Frontline officers doing outstanding work," said the chief. The next gun seized by cops in Peel Region will be the 10th so far this year. Our frontline officers and investigators continue to demonstrate exceptional commitment and professionalism in their efforts to keep our community safe, said Peel Police Chief Nishan Duraipa. Their proactive work in removing illegal firearms from our streets is outstanding, and it reflects the dedication we see across the organization every day. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Toronto Sun on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Among those charged was Jamal Reed, 28, of Brampton, with unauthorized possession of a firearm, carrying a concealed weapon, occupant of a motor vehicle knowing there was a firearm, possession of a loaded prohibited or restricted firearm, unauthorized possession of a prohibited device or ammunition, obstructing police, failure to comply with a release order, and possession of a firearm contrary to an order. Incidentally, police said the failure to comply with a release order charge stems from a Toronto police investigation, in which Reed was accused of failing to comply with a release order and other criminal charges. Derek Asidu, 27, of no fixed address, was also charged with being an occupant of a motor vehicle knowing there was a firearm, possession of cocaine, and driving a motor vehicle with cannabis readily available. Both were being held pending a bail hearing. The charges have not been tested in court. Traffic stops no longer routine. 40 years ago, finding a gun in a traffic stop was rare. Now it's a common incident. Since 2024, 161 firearms have been seized by the frontline officers, said Andrews. This does not account for all of the guns discovered by various major crime units or special projects. Andrews said every time they remove a gun from the street, it means that a gun cannot hurt anybody or be used in a crime. One interesting statistic is 30% of the 161 guns seized since 2024 were found during traffic stops, which clearly have become not so routine. It's an example of the bravery of selflessness of our people, said Andrews. They take seriously the job and have the willingness to put themselves at risk to keep our community safe. It's complex and sometimes terrifying, but it's important and potentially life-saving work. There is a very professional picture of the Peel Regional Police Chief Nishan Duraipa, and he is wearing his dark blue uniform that has all different kinds of badges and patches on it. He is posed at an angle and he's looking upward, and he's like lit very elegantly. And to the right of him is an enlarged version of the regional police badge. And it says Peel Regional Police in gold with a blue background and some kind of imagery that's gold with buildings, and in red ribbons it says Region of Peel. Photo courtesy of Peter J. Thompson via Post Media. That story was Warmington. Peel Region's frontline cops seizing more than gun per week in 2026 by Joe Warmington. The next story is FedEx joins companies seeking refund after Trump tariffs ruled illegal by Brian Toey. FedEx is the latest company suing for a refund on what it paid for tariffs set by U.S. President Donald Trump last year after a U.S. Supreme Court ruling says tariffs are illegal. More than 1,000 companies, including Costco and Revlon, have filed suit in the U.S. Court of International Trade in an effort to recover tariff costs. FedEx said that it has suffered injury from having to pay and is seeking redress. Duke law professor Tim Meyer says if there is no refund process, each case will be tried individually. "We're going to have to wait and see how the government decides to handle the refund claims," he said. And then, if the government chooses not to set up a process for the refunds, ultimately the Court of International Trade is going to have to adjudicate over 1,000 cases. Supreme Court ruling infuriates Trump. The Supreme Court struck down President Donald Trump's far-reaching global tariffs on Friday. Trump said he was absolutely ashamed of some of the justices who ruled 6-3 against him, calling them, quote, disloyal to our Constitution and lapdogs. He suggested foreign influence may have been involved in the decision. The Supreme Court found tariffs that Trump imposed under an emergency powers law were unconstitutional, including the sweeping reciprocal tariffs he levied on nearly every other country. The Treasury had collected more than $133 billion from the tariffs the president imposed under the emergency powers law as of December, U.S. data shows. That money could be subject to potential refunds after the ruling. Trump says he'll find another way. Trump has vowed to collect tariffs through other means. He reached for a stopgap option immediately after his defeat Friday at the Supreme Court. Section 122 of the Trade Act of 1974 allows the president to impose tariffs of up to 15% for up to 150 days. If he wants to keep imposing tariffs after that, he needs approval from Congress, which will likely vote down any kind of motion that imposes taxes before November's midterm elections. That story was FedEx joins companies seeking refund after Trump tariffs ruled illegal, by Brian Towie. The next story is man accused of putting woman's body in bags, leaving it by dumpster in London, Ontario, by Dale Carruthers and Ryan Goodison. A London man is accused of putting a woman's body in garbage bags and leaving the body beside a dumpster behind the apartment building where he lives, according to court documents. The body of Jessica Rose Baker, a 37-year-old mother of 4, was found in the area of King and Maitland Streets on February 17, around 1:30 p.m., London police said. Rondell Joseph Jones, 55, of London is charged with improper or indecent interference with a dead body, police said Monday. Court documents allege Jones placed Baker's body, quote, inside garbage bags and left it at the rear of 450 King Street, beside the garbage dumpster sometime between February 4 and 17. Jones, who was arrested Sunday, lives in the 3-story walk-up on King Street, the documents say. He appeared in court Monday and was remanded in custody until his next appearance Thursday. A resident of the King Street building, who asked not to be identified, said Jones had been staying with a woman in her second-floor unit for a few weeks before the body was found. The grisly discovery drew a large police presence that lasted more than a day, the man said, adding residents were told to stay inside the apartment while officers were on the scene. Homeless people often pick through the dumpster, which is emptied every Wednesday, looking for recyclables, he said. Police removed the dumpster, which had a missing lid, and later brought back a new one, the resident said. Detectives canvassed the building, asking residents if they had heard or seen anything unusual, he said. If they had fixed the cameras, they would have seen it, the resident said, referring to the building's security cameras. In an interview, Baker's mother remembered her daughter as a wonderful soul. She would always give the shirt off her back. She was very caring and never judged people, Angela Rose Baker said. The two had not seen each other since last May. Baker's 4 children, all younger than 11, were not in her custody at the time of her death and were staying with family members, her mother said. She had a pure soul and a huge heart and she will be dearly missed, her mother said, adding she knows nothing about the circumstances that led to the death. According to her obituary, a funeral for Baker is scheduled to be held Thursday at 1 p.m. at the Kettle Point United Church, located at 6354 Indian Lane, followed by a burial at the Kettle Point Cemetery. Police have assigned the case to the Major Crime Section, but have not ruled the death a homicide or determined a cause of death. Investigators are asking anyone who interacted with Baker since February 1 to contact London police. Even the smallest piece of information could be vital to this investigation, police spokesperson Constable Matt Dawson said. Baker had not been reported missing to police before her body was found, Dawson said. The discovery of Baker's body came the same week a body was pulled from the Thames River near Harris Park. Police haven't released the identity of the deceased in that case, and say the death is not considered suspicious. There is a picture of Jessica Rose Baker. It looks like she's seated at a booth in a bar or a restaurant. She's got long, dark brown hair, brown eyes. She's wearing a plaid shirt and smiling. She's petite and real cute. Photo courtesy of submitted from her obituary. That story was Man Accused of Putting Woman's Body in Bags, Leaving It by Dumpster in London, Ontario, by Dale Carruthers and Ryan Goodison. The next story is Mandel, fifth complainant at Frank Stronach trial accused of lying, by Michelle Mandel. She begged him to stop, but the esthetician alleged that billionaire Frank Stronach raped her in a hotel room in 1990 and told her, "You will love it." Or at least that's the account the fifth complainant gave police when she first came forward in June 2024, after Stronach had been arrested on sex assault charges. She told investigators she'd been friends with Stronach's former girlfriend, and after bumping into him at a hotel restaurant where she was meeting a client, she agreed to meet him for lunch the next day. There was a spark, she said, and she was open to a new relationship. When she began crying while confiding in Stronach about the infidelity of her new baby's father, she agreed to his invitation to speak more privately in his hotel suite. "I trusted him," she testified. "I saw him many times. He was a gentleman." That changed suddenly when he backed her onto a bed and ripped her clothes off, she said, ignoring her cries to stop. "I didn't know if I was going to make it out of the room alive," she said. Stronach, the 93-year-old founder of auto parts giant Magna International, has pleaded not guilty to 12 charges involving 7 women that date from 1977 to 1990. Complainant accused of embellishing story. In a scathing cross-examination, Stronach's lawyer Leora Shemesh accused the fifth complainant of constantly embellishing her story, offering, quote, new memories. "Do you just make things up while you're sitting on the stand?" the lawyer demanded. "I just remember things. I'm flashing back as to what event took place 40 years ago," she explained. "Do you have a hard time with the truth?" Shemesh shot back. "I always tell the truth. I tell the truth as it comes out or as I remember it." It was only during her testimony that she's mentioned for the first time that Stronach commented on her beautiful breasts, that she bled after the encounter and had to deal with it in the bathroom, that he apologized, and that she stuffed her panties into her purse before leaving, Shemesh said. None of these details were reported to the prosecution, despite her having volunteered another police statement only last month, according to Shemesh. Some of it was due to shame and feeling uncomfortable, the woman said. The complainant also testified that some of the details are being revealed now because she was never asked specific questions by police, and she said that new memories arise the more they discuss the incident. The defense lawyer reminded her that she made a point of telling police she never heard from Stronach after the alleged rape. He didn't even make one phone call to even attempt to apologize, she agreed. Shemesh seemed to suggest the woman was angry because he'd jilted her after casual sex. What you were really upset about is that you didn't get the relationship or the love that you were looking for, she charged, a claim the witness denied. Lawyer questions lack of immediate report. The lawyer also questioned why she remained in the hotel room after the alleged assault and didn't report it to anyone. The witness said she was sobbing and Stronach was trying to calm her down before he let her leave. "I remember he said sorry, we'll see each other again," she said. Shemesh accused her of adding yet another new memory. "Do you think maybe you're creating it in your mind?" the lawyer asked. "Do you think you're relying on some sort of soap opera to help you formulate particular facts?" No, the witness insisted. "I had to live through this nightmare 35 and a half years of my life. I never forgot what happened, and the fact that I was raped against my will." Perhaps she's telling the truth. Perhaps she isn't. It will be for the Superior Court Judge Anne Malloy to determine at the judge alone trial. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Toronto Sun on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Credibility in court questioned. But there is little doubt her reliability as a witness certainly suffered a serious blow when the defense lawyer confronted her about her past skirmishes with the justice system. While she said she could count the number of lawsuits on one hand, Shemesh showed her she's been sued almost 24 times by banks, companies, and individuals. There have been numerous judgments against her, including one where the judge made a searing comment about her lack of credibility in court. Like shooting fish in a barrel, Shemesh asked if she'd ever declared bankruptcy. She insisted she had not. Then the lawyer produced the document showing she'd filed for bankruptcy more than a decade ago. And then there was what Shemesh labeled her false allegation that had a man briefly arrested for threatening her about 5 years ago. According to Shemesh, it was after police reviewed the video of their interaction in a parking lot and saw she was actually confrontational rather than terrified for her life that investigators released the man she'd accused. In this case, the one against Mr. Stronach, we don't have access to a video, right? The lawyer said pointedly. Yes, that's right. The 6th complainant is expected to testify Wednesday. There is a picture of Frank Stronach as he's arriving at the courthouse in Toronto. It was taken on February 17th of this year. For being in his 90s, the guy looks pretty good. He's got kind of a lot of white hair. He's got some glasses on. His face it's kind of got a ruddy complexion. And there's somebody walking in front of him, but you can't see his face. It's cut off. And he's wearing just a blue jacket over a blue shirt. Photo by Laura Proctor via the Canadian Press. That story was Mandel, 5th complainant at Frank Stronach trial accused of lying, by Michelle Mandel. The next story is Health Department won't support bill mandating warnings on liquor labels, by Post Media News. So much for advertising the dangers of booze. Blacklock's reporter said the health department will not support a Senate bill mandating health warnings on liquor labels, something the Canadian Medical Association had endorsed after saying alcohol contributes to 17,000 preventable deaths on an annual basis. This according to a briefing note called Alcohol Labeling and Marketing, which said, quote, "The health risks of consuming alcohol are well established. The government supports public awareness activities to reduce alcohol-related harms. By increasing awareness, We help people in Canada make informed decisions about their alcohol use. Our government is aware some countries are introducing alcohol warning labels. It added that the health department would, quote, monitor alcohol policy internationally and research related to public health interventions. CMA president says bill necessary. The latest bill would have mandated all alcohol products to carry a label warning against the risks of alcohol consumption, after a similar bill lapsed in Parliament in 2023. CMA President Dr. Margot Burnell told the Senate Social Affairs Committee in October that the bill was necessary. We know alcohol consumption leads to over 800,000 hospital and emergency room visits each year, she said. It is in the top 3 of preventable risk factors for developing cancer after cigarettes and obesity. Alcohol ruins lives, bill's sponsor says. She added alcohol was linked to more than 200 health conditions and diseases, including liver sclerosis, alcohol use disorder, cardiovascular disease, and complications in newborns. Quebec Senator Patrick Brazeau was the sponsor of the bill and is a recovering alcoholic. It does ruin lives and kills people, he testified in October. Personally, it led me down a very, very, very dark path. The Canadian Centre on Substance Use and Addiction in Alcohol Drinking Guidelines recommend adults consume no more than 2 standard drinks per week. That story was Health Department Won't Support Bill Mandating Warnings on Liquor Labels by Postmedia News. The next story is Newborn Female Giraffe Incredible Addition to Toronto Zoo by Anne Bacani. It's baby fever at the Toronto Zoo, and this bundle of joy is already head and shoulders above the rest. A Maasai giraffe calf arrived at 1:26 a.m. on Sunday and wasted no time making an impression. By about 2 a.m., she was already standing tall. By Monday morning, the wildlife health team gave the newborn her first checkup and confirmed what keepers were hoping for. She's healthy and she's a girl. She's not so little either. The calf measures a whopping 6'4". Mom Mistari and her baby were given the weekend to bond. Endangered species. This endangered Maasai giraffe calf is an incredible addition to your Toronto Zoo, said CEO Dolph de Jong. The zoo first announced Mistari's pregnancy on Mother's Day in 2025. After a long 15-month pregnancy, staff said they're thrilled to welcome a healthy calf and shine a spotlight on the endangered species. The zoo is part of the Association of Zoos and Aquariums Maasai Giraffe Species Survival Plan, a breeding program connecting accredited zoos. Breeding introductions were closely monitored through November 4, 2024. Then, in January 2025, the zoo's reproductive science team confirmed the pregnancy after analyzing months of hormone levels. Birth carries emotional note. Kiko, the calf's father, passed away unexpectedly last month from cardiac failure associated with acute muscle exertion, as reported earlier by the Toronto Sun. While the zoo said his absence is deeply felt, his legacy now lives on through his daughter. Maasai giraffes were officially listed as endangered in December 2018 by the International Union for Conservation of Nature. Fewer than 35,000 remain in the wild, a population that has dropped by more than 50% in the last 30 years due to illegal hunting and habitat loss. For now, zoo staff said to stay tuned. Baby updates and details on when visitors can meet this towering little lady are coming soon. That story was Newborn Female Giraffe Incredible Addition to Toronto Zoo by Anne Bacani. The next story is Cuban government quite stable despite U.S. sanctions, Global Affairs official says. by Brian Toey. Cuba's ambassador to Canada said the United States is trying to overthrow his country's communist regime, but Global Affairs said the government is quite stable. Ambassador Rodrigo Malmierca Diaz addressed a House of Commons Foreign Affairs Committee Tuesday in Ottawa, saying, quote, "Collective punishment of a whole nation is an unjustifiable crime," in response to an oil blockade placed on Cuba by the U.S. One may disagree with the country's political project, but there is no right whatsoever that justifies a great power attempting to achieve its objectives by suffocating an entire people, Malmierca Diaz told Canadian lawmakers. Officials close to U.S. President Donald Trump have said he believes the blockade could put pressure on the communist regime to the point that it topples. U.S. trying to create humanitarian crisis. Malmierca Diaz said Washington is taking further steps to, quote, exercise military control over the traffic of vessels arriving in Cuba. News outlets have reported oil ships being followed by the Americans when they approached the island. Malmierca Diaz told officials the shortages are preventing thousands of kidney dialysis patients from getting care and are keeping food from reaching various regions. Without energy, every aspect of life in a country is affected: food distribution, public health, transportation, and education, he said. The objective of this oil blockade is clear: to create a humanitarian crisis and try to force regime change through it. Mark Richardson, a senior Global Affairs Canada official overseeing Caribbean policy, said Cuba's communist government is not likely to fall. Despite the lack of fuel being imported due to the U.S. measures in particular, what I can say is that the Cuban government appears to be quite stable, he said. It has developed itself through all areas of the economy and society in Cuba and shows no indication of being unstable at this time. That's all the time we have for this story, which was Cuban government quite stable despite U.S. sanctions, Global Affairs official says, by Brian Toey. You've been listening to a reading of articles and features from the February 24th issue of the Toronto Sun. Your reader has been Melanie Guralnick. Thank you for listening.